Welcome to this comprehensive presentation of cultural intelligence in aviation, bridging social attitudes, culture, and safety in a global environment. This work represents a significant step forward in understanding the human dimensions of flight safety within our massive global infrastructure. As air travel becomes more interconnected, the ability to navigate diverse cultural landscapes is no longer an advantage. It is a safety-critical necessity. In this presentation, we will explore the core frameworks, practical applications, and future directions detailed in our research. Today, we explore how human performance is being reframed through the lens of cultural intelligence, or CQ, moving beyond traditional technical training. Our inquiry is grounded in the STS perspective, addressing the socio-cultural factors that underpin every decision made at 30,000 feet. By integrating CQ into the heart of aviation safety, we can build more resilient systems that account for the beautiful complexity of human variability. This requires a shift from Safety 1 to Safety 2, focusing not just on what goes wrong, but on how human adaptation ensures things usually go right. Part 1 of our book establishes the foundations, examining the socio-cultural factors that influence aviation performance in the modern era. This growth has created a system where diverse cultural backgrounds interact across every facet of flight operations and safety management. We rethink human performance in high-reliability systems using a science-technology society perspective, emphasizing that variability is a resource, not a liability. When human variability, shaped by culture and context, is recognized, trained, and supported, it becomes a powerful source of resilience within complex organizational structures. This shift requires a deep understanding of how infrastructure and talent management intersect with cultural norms. We examine traditional safety models, such as the Swiss cheese model, which illustrates how multiple small failures, seemingly unrelated, can align to produce catastrophic outcomes. The Swiss cheese model shows how defenses, shown here as layers, have holes representing latent organizational conditions hidden within the system. In our analysis, culture is the operating system for all human factors, defining the unspoken rules of behavior and the mental models used by crews. A critical socio-cultural factor we examine is power distance, which significantly affects communication gradients and authority within the cockpit. Power distance affects how crews perceive hierarchical status and the way subordinates view and defer to those with greater perceived authority. In high power distance settings, subordinates may refrain from questioning authority even when faced with clear procedural deviations or hazardous judgments. Historical case analyses have shown how this reluctance to intervene contributes to system failure, making PDI a vital metric for safety auditing. Understanding these gradients through frameworks like HFACS and STAMP is essential for designing training that empowers every crew member to speak up regardless of their position when safety is at stake. We must integrate these findings into crew resource management to ensure that cultural deference does not override operational judgment during critical flight phases. In Part 2, we transition from theory to practice, exploring the integration of CQ and diversity intelligence within training. C-Q is not a soft skill. It is a critical safety competence defined as the capacity to function effectively across diverse cultural contexts. By embedding these competencies, we prepare crews to anticipate and manage intercultural dynamics proactively. Metacognitive CQ involves thinking about thinking, the awareness and regulation of one's own cognitive processes during intercultural exchanges. This encompasses planning for cultural exchanges and monitoring those interactions as they unfold, ensuring that one's mental models are adjusted for reality. This involves deliberate preparation, such as reviewing regional SOP adaptations or adjusting phrasing in briefings. Cognitive CQ refers to the depth of your knowledge about cultural values, norms, and operational expectations. It enables professionals to form accurate expectations and respond with contextual appropriateness, especially during time-sensitive flight operations. Pilots must routinely interpret subtle signals, how deference is expressed, or how decision-making unfolds in hierarchical systems. Motivational CQ is the impetus that propels individuals to engage across cultures with vigor and curiosity, reflecting an intrinsic drive to adapt. High levels of motivation facilitate proactive engagement even in the instances of stress or uncertainty. Possessing an understanding of theory is insufficient. They must possess a genuine desire to apply that knowledge. Behavioral CQ is the outward manifestation, the capability to adapt verbal and nonverbal behavior to align with the cultural norms of others. Behavioral CQ transforms theoretical awareness into real-time adaptation, allowing professionals to provide clear instructions and de-escalate tension through appropriate posture. Effective communication cannot be reduced to linguistic clarity alone. standardized phraseology does not resolve the challenges posed by multilingual crews or varying cultural norms around assertiveness and conflict resolution. While English is the global standard, variations in pronunciation and intonation can decrease efficiency by nearly 23%. Leadership manifestation is also culturally influenced. Leaders from collectivist cultures may emphasize consensus and harmony, while individualist leaders prioritize decisiveness and assertiveness. Fundamentally, culture defines the operational atmosphere and the mental models that guide safety decisions. It is the operating system for all human factors and total performance output. As Hudson put it, culture is what people do when no one is watching. Part 3 applies the CQ framework to accident analysis, uncovering the latent contributors that traditional investigative models often overlook or generalize. We analyze Pakistan International Airlines Flight 8303, a stark reminder of how cultural, organizational, and communicative dimensions can quietly converge to erode flight safety. The investigation revealed steep authority gradients and cultural deference that inhibited critical intervention by the first officer. The desire to press on despite numerous anomalies revealed a culturally reinforced sense of duty that tragically overrode sound operational judgment. Adherence to the plan became pathological, illustrating the concept of goal fixation. This case reveals how divergent assumptions, shaped by cultural scripts, can silently erode safety margins even within highly competent crews. To prevent such events, we introduce a 20-item coding system. It begins by mapping each CQ factor onto the sequence of events during an investigation. Labeling these factors supports data aggregation, enabling systemic cultural vulnerabilities to be detected across thousands of reports and informing training redesign. Shorthand codes like MCQ-5 for ignoring cultural context or BCQ-5 for rigid behavior provide a standardized taxonomy for safety professionals. We also revisit the Tenerife airport disaster, which remains the deadliest accident in history, and the watershed moment that led to the birth of crew resource management. It highlighted the intersection of culture and hierarchy, influenced by the presence of a senior training captain. Critical breakdowns occurred due to situational role expectations and cognitive framing that distorted communications, especially under intense stress. Mismatched conversational conventions meant that an implied action was not recognized as a request for clearance. Had the crew engaged in more reflective dialogue, the outcome may have been averted. As analyzed before, to prevent such tragedies, we utilize our C-Q investigative coding system to systematically quantify these contributors. The proposed shorthand codes provide a standardized taxonomy for safety professionals to detect systemic cultural vulnerabilities across thousands of reports. The final part of our book moves from method to institutionalization, outlining what leaders must do to foster a diversity-centric safety culture. Resilience and ethical integrity depend on how effectively we integrate CQ into every level of policy, leadership, and operational practice. Had the crew engaged in more reflective dialogue, questioning the implied requests for clearance, this catastrophic outcome may have been averted. These cases reveal how divergent assumptions shaped by cultural scripts can silently erode safety margins within even the most competent crews. Capturing these dynamics requires expanding data collection to include structured interviews and behavioral observations that identify nonverbal cues. The final part of our book moves from method to institutionalization, outlining what leaders must do to foster a diversity-centric safety culture. Resilience and ethical integrity depend on how effectively we integrate CQ into every level of policy, leadership, and operational practice. CQ must be ingrained in every facet of aviation culture, from recruitment and behavioral audits to peer evaluation systems and global working groups. We highlight the urgent need for international bodies to codify intercultural competencies within safety regulations and mandatory training curricula. Emerging technologies like virtual reality allow participants to experience culturally charged interactions within safe, high-fidelity simulated environments. These simulations offer a realistic arena for adaptive behavior experimentation, providing immediate feedback on communication and authority dynamics. Wearable technology and biometric monitoring will provide real-time data on how culture-induced friction affects cognitive load and performance. This data facilitates reflective discussions that bridge emotional regulation and adaptation, fostering deep behavioral change. Organizations must cultivate a diversity-centric safety culture that values human variability as a primary resource. This shift recognizes that communication failure often reflects overlapping identity constraints, not just misunderstanding. CQ is the key to building the aviation systems of tomorrow. We call for a sustained research agenda to explore how CQ evolves across pilot careers and its long-term impact on global safety outcomes. Longitudinal, mixed methods research is needed to combine detailed observation with systemic performance data across diverse fleet types. Bridging the gap between research and practice requires structured collaboration between academic institutions and international aviation consortia. We must establish standing working groups to create a space for real-time problem-solving and knowledge exchange across the industry. Ultimately, this book provides a roadmap for an expanded understanding of how procedural systems intersect with lived human variability. Cultural intelligence is no longer a peripheral asset. It is a central, non-negotiable competency. In an industry where human life depends on communication, coordination, and trust, CQ is a matter of moral obligation and operational integrity. Thank you for your time. Fly safe. Failure is not an option.